Hey everyone, this is Jerry with San Pedro Mastery. Today we'll talk about the most dreaded kind of rot, and that is the rot that appears from the base of the plant. I will show you how to identify it, prevent it, and cure it. If you notice that the base of your cactus is turning yellow, or more commonly brown, it is most likely due to rot. And by the way, the soil mix you see here looks horrific and was not prepared by me. I bought the plant as is in this clay pot with this very unhealthy potting soil, but it rotted before I had a chance to repot it. No problem, I was able to cut it and save it, obviously repotting it with a much better soil mix. The plant just lost some height. The way to find out if it's rot is to touch it with your finger. If it is soft to the touch, like you can see now on the video, then you have rot and you will need to operate. If you don't operate, the rot will most likely spread and very fast. Sometimes it can eat the entire branch. Some other times, it will stop by itself at some point, but usually not until a sizable portion of the branch is gone. Normally, the rot stops at newer branches or pups. These will eventually fall off, and if they land on the soil, they will try to root and carry on growth. But sometimes they do not fall off, and they end up being contaminated by the rot. If you see a healthy pup still attached to a rotted branch, you should try to pull it out and place it on top of the soil so that it can make new roots. Let's take a look at some examples. I found this cutting in my collection completely tilted, and I realized it had rotted, so I pulled it out. The flesh had turned to liquid and completely disappeared, but luckily the damage stopped by itself and new roots have now started to grow. Perfect, I don't have to cut anything. I can replant this cutting as is. However, just to be safe, after pulling out the plant from the soil full of liquefied cactus flesh, I left it out in the open for it to dry out and to make sure rot does not come back. But as you can see, the plant is now fully cured and ready to repot. Another example. Here again the rot stopped by itself but much higher. If I pick up the surviving tip, you can see that it has now calloused. I will now put that piece on top of the soil in a smaller pot and it will make new roots. The remaining piece of the cactus, the one that has rotted, is just an empty shell, as you can see on the screen. The inside liquefied and disappeared into the soil. When you see rot coming out of the base, I recommend cutting it. I specify from the base because if the rot appears higher up on the cactus, it is far more likely to stop by itself. Should you disinfect the blade? Personally, I never disinfect the blade if I cut healthy San Pedros, and I've never had any problem. But in the case of a plant that is rotting, it might have weaker defenses and it's probably a good idea to disinfect it. Just rub some alcohol on a clean blade and let it act for 30 seconds, then you can cut. As for where to cut, I normally cut back to clean white flesh. As you can see in this example, I have cut quite close to the affected area. The photo was taken after the cut calloused, and you can see the rot has not spread to the new cutting. Another example. Here I have made the cut once again very close to the rotten area. As I made the cut, I discovered some of it was rotten, so I had to make another cut. Because the plant is small and I wanted to save a maximum of it, I did not cut out a whole section again, I just did an angle cut to get rid of all rotten flesh. Here I have cut a little too low. There is still rot on 3 of the ribs, in spite of the fact you could not see that from the outside. Also, the core looks contaminated. I will need to recut higher. Note that if your knife goes through some rot, you must wash it and disinfect it again before you make another cut. Otherwise, you will spread the bacteria and rot will continue. You may have noticed that I cut the plant very close to the rotten area. As long as the section where I cut is all white, without any yellow or orange spots, I'm happy with it. This works for me in the huge majority of cases. Some people prefer to cut a bit higher, like an inch or an inch and a half above the rot, just to be on the safe side. If ever rot restarts on the new piece, cut again, this time an inch or so higher. You then need to leave the cut piece somewhere well ventilated, preferably outside, unless the lowest temperatures at night are likely to be freezing. It takes about a week to fully cure an inch of San Pedro section, so it would take about 3 weeks to cure a 3-inch wide San Pedro. Then you can repot it, like I explained in my video how to replant a San Pedro cutting. This video actually shows you one of the ways you can prevent rotting, which is not to bury a plant too deep. Replanting a San Pedro cutting too deep in order to give it stability will enormously increase the likeliness of rot. You will also have to cut down watering, since the number one reason for rotting is overwatering. In the summer, make sure the soil is fully dry before you water again. And by fully dry, I mean not just dry on the surface, but also at the bottom of the pot. If in doubt, wait for a bit longer between waterings. And in the winter, try not to water at all unless the plant is young and looks like it is really thirsty. Another common trigger for rot is open wounds on the roots, which get infected by bacteria. If you are repotting a rooted San Pedro, please wait for about 5 days until you water again, just in case you've damaged the roots and they need to heal themselves first. When they see rot appearing at the base of a San Pedro, many enthusiasts are too quick to call it root rot. Rot from the root can occur, but often the rot comes from the green flesh below the soil surface, which is vulnerable. This is why you need to be very careful adding any fertilizer to the soil, and that includes earthworm castings or guano, until the green flesh has corked, which means it will have toughened and changed to a tan color. One of the best things you can do to fight rot is check on your plants regularly. If you have many plants like I do, just go out at least once a week and do a quick inspections for possible cases of rot. I just look at the base of each plant, I don't bother looking at the rest of it. I do like a quick scan of them all. The base is the tricky part. This is where the most serious cases of rot will come from. If you have some rot spots elsewhere on the plant, higher up, they are less likely to develop into a problem. But I will cover that in another video, so make sure you subscribe to my channel and tick the little bell so that you don't miss this episode. If you notice any darker patch near the base, feel it with your finger. Here there is one, but it is not rot, as it is very hard to the touch, so no worry at all. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please hit like if you did. Also make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss any of my weekly video tutorials on how to grow the San Pedro cactus successfully. I'll see you very soon.